What up, YouTube? It's the North End. Let's go.
This is the North End. This is the North End.
Guys, it's Paul Forrest coming at you from the North End. It is a Premier League fan channel where we talk all things Premier League, all things football, all things how our days are going, how our lives are going. When I say ours, I, of course, mean the North End crew, who I will throw up on screen right now. Fellas, how are we? How's it going? Throw up the gang signs if you got them. Don't if you don't. Represent how you want to represent. David Convery, I'm going to start with you, buddy, because it's easier with a round table. How are you, man? I haven't talked to you in a while. What's going on?
I know. I feel like I haven't seen any of the guys.
Because you're never around. This fine, sunny, warm, amazing Toronto summer we're having. You're always out of town.
We'll have to change that in the coming weeks with the season coming back. But looking forward to seeing you guys in person. Looking forward to tonight, and looking forward to some football coming back. We were talking about it off camera. It just life feels a little bit more normal for me when the footy's back. So looking forward to it.
When the footy's back. Brian, the other co-conspirator, co-generator, the starter of this North End thing that we started long ago during the pandemic when we were bored and we had a podcast. Brian, how are you?
I think that was pre-pandemic, but I am
well. It was.
Yeah. You know what's crazy? I thought about this the other day. We invented the sign off of bye at the end of shows. Yeah, and those guys from Smartlist stole it.
Stole it from us, yeah. Fuckers. I think maybe one of us stole it from somebody else. I'm well, mate. I'm doing really well. Talking about football, obviously, it's very exciting. I'm going to be in the UK in about a little less than 2 weeks or around 2 weeks for the Spurs home opener against mighty Manchester United. So really looking forward to that and looking forward to the season starting and looking forward to this transfer saga, which we're going to talk about getting over with, whatever happens. So, yeah,
good. Talk about guys not being around very often. Azaz, what country are you in right now? Where are you? What's going on?
I'm in Canada. Soon to depart these shores again briefly, and then I'll be back and forth. But to Convery's point, I feel like footy just makes the whole thing tick a lot easier. And just the anchor point to the week is when the games are, when Liverpool are playing for me, obviously Man U and Tottenham respectively for you guys. So excited that the band's back together tonight because it kind of means that we're that bit closer and we have to make that home opener work a week on the season opener work a week on Friday. Let's all meet up and watch that together somewhere in Toronto.
This stage of the summer always catches me like if I was at school where like all of a sudden the summer is like over and I'm back at school, but like the reverse where I'm like, oh yeah, no, like it's a week and a half away, but I'm like very excited about it. Yeah. But like I can't process that it's only a week and a half away because it feels like it's been so long since I actually watched something.
9 days.
Speaking of shameless promotions, Brian, are you wearing merch from your other YouTube channel?
I am right now. What I thought I would do, and of course it is shameless. I have no problem with it. Is promote the other channel and also say, hey, maybe we should be doing some of this. If you guys want some North End gear, let me know. I have the means to sort of get all kinds of gear. Speaking of that,
all right.
We just got a comment from Bryce. Let's just bring that up. Question for the panel: did my man Brian got the memo? Do you need to wear a hat? So some more. It's my company, Audio Crisp.
Brian's on the promotion tonight. Okay, so I was thinking about it too. Like, if we were a football team, like, is Azaz our like big signing over the last couple of years? Is he like our Virgil van Dijk, our Bruno Fernandes? Like
he is, but like he's fading out a little bit. He's like the signing we got a long time ago, but he's kind of might need to send him somewhere else.
No, comeback season.
Wow,
no.
I'm kidding, Azaz.
I know. I'm just playing.
I don't want to tell you guys.
Name of banter.
I don't want to say it publicly, but JP California pulls in a lot of views.
Yeah, like you gotta give him
the franchise.
He can't hold a camera sideways to save his life, but he brings in a lot of views.
It's true. It's true.
He's something.
Shout out to JP, buddy.
Yeah, shout out to JP. Honest to God, that guy knows so much about football, but you would not know it if you talk to him for 5 minutes. You have to talk to him for 10 minutes to understand he knows a lot about football.
Yeah.
Wildcat. Gents,
quickly, Paul, before you get on with it, how are you, mate? How are you? We
oh, well, thanks, man. Thank you for asking.
I know I posted before, so I understand.
No, man, I'm good. It's been a good summer. I am like the classic summer off season obsessive with checking Twitter and YouTube profile videos. And like I could probably do a workup profile on almost everybody Man United have been attached to, because I've learned so much about every single one of them. For my own state of mind, I probably need the season to start and stop obsessing about the window and just start watching football and drinking Caesars on Saturday morning.
Get on with it.
I would say I get more mental in the off season, because when the season starts, I don't think about transfers, but like I get unhealthy, obsessed with like every rumor, this, that, and it's almost like you need the season to start to be like, okay, the team is set, calm down a little bit. It's wild.
Yeah, for sure. You need a bit of skepticism about the rumors as well, because there's so much nonsense, right? It's like, you know, it gets a little bit like, and also be able to understand what's good and what isn't good. And
I've had this kind of wild thing happen where it's like, usually when I talk about football, I've got my like little group, like obviously the North End guys, we have our own WhatsApp group. We talk shit. We talk about what we're going to do on the show all the time. And then I've got like some fantasy football things that were like generally a mix of different fans, but like everybody are pretty reasonable people. Chirping is always a thing that happens there, but like we've brought Eric from the Chelsea groups into this show, and like there's a lot of people who know that
I left that group,
and Brian left. We were
you know what? I get why Brian they were giving it to Brian too much. It
wasn't the reason I left though, Connie. But thank you. But Paul's in the middle of I left for other reasons. But
I made this interesting,
better because of it.
It's interesting experiment where I actually joined the Man United Canada supporters WhatsApp group.
Oh God!
And holy. Man, for every single person that seems like they've got a handle on it or like have a positive attitude about something, somebody flies in with this dramatic left-wing nut job point of view, super negative, nothing is good enough, everything's a disaster. Those very same people who are just like, what is the point of supporting this club if you're going to be like this all the time, are also the same people who are rallying around, give Greenwood a chance, blah blah blah. Like
none of it makes any sense, man. It's it's not worth the pain.
I'm pretty sure we all have it though. As you must have a bunch of just nut jobs,
every fan base.
We all follow our own respective club, and this past summer I've just been like, is mine and Paul's, is our fan base just mental? So I have to check in. Like, is it you guys? Like, I can't handle it. Some of it's the lunacy is outrageous.
It's across the board, Connie. It's across the board. The Spurs fan base, especially on Twitter, Bobby K, who's just saying hello, will know as well because he's on there. It just gets like a complete. We sign Madison, and then as soon as we don't have something else happening the next day, we're in shambles. The whole thing's going to end, and blah blah blah. And it's just gonna. You know, like there's reasonable, skeptical, critical thinking doesn't happen on Twitter. It doesn't happen about football. It doesn't happen about football generally. So it's sort of, there you go, Bryce. Nice one, Bryce.
I get it.
But it's a tough one. And again, I think the less we try, the less we allow ourselves to get sucked in when it comes to the sort of negative side of it, the better, but the harder it is because it's like so close to the season, and we really just want to know what's happening with our players. And you can use this as a segue if you want, Paul. But the Harry Kane saga is like, come on,
oh yeah, man,
yeah. Well, we are going to have to talk about it because obviously it's a thing. But before we get into it, quick congratulations to everybody who's either been involved in the show, is a current member of the show, or watches the show. We have hit over 500 subs. It took us a while, but we got there. So we're hoping to hit 1 million in the next couple of weeks. Please like and subscribe. Help
like and subscribe.
Maybe awesome to get to 1,000 by the end of the season. Maybe that's a goal. If you guys,
it's a good goal.
Friends like this, and you like what we're watching, get your friends on here, like and subscribe. It would be fun to try to have a goal, even if we don't meet it, because we probably won't. But let's just chuck it out there.
And if Connie can make an occasional video, that'd be nice too. So
he doesn't
every now and then.
Every now and then. So it's the rumor that's not going away. I think at this point it's pretty well established.
Batted down a little bit today, but anyway, I'll let you talk. Sorry.
Harry Kane, rumors being Harry Kane, not for sale by Tottenham. Daniel Levy is not going to sell, blah, 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 but he's not going to sign a contract. There's no action on that front. So he is potentially going to walk away for free. The powers that be that run the business have intervened and have supposedly said you cannot allow an asset worth 80+ million to walk away for free next summer. So either tie him down or sell him. And that's reasonably good business. That's common sense business.
I want to clarify some of this when you're done.
Sure. Yeah. No, clarify what's the tail end of this. So, so the rumors basically meaning that offers would be entertained and that there would be a willingness to have negotiations if Harry's okay with the team and the price is right. All these things are what ifs, right? Like, who knows how far away everybody would be from the evaluation to sell him. But what it does mean is that if that is the case, as we get closer and closer to the end of the window, the final offer they get will be the best offer, whatever that looks like, whatever team comes forward. Bayern Munich are currently in the running. Supposedly, they've got something close to 80 million prepared as an offer. Tuchel loves them, as he should, because he's played against them many times in the Premier League when he was manager of Chelsea. He is probably the best version of a 9 that team could have. I think he would do wonders there. It is a outrageous sum for Bayern Munich to spend. I get uncomfortable with that because they're not usually spenders in that way. And I still can't get my head around an English player going to Germany at that like stage of his career. That one's, I'm just like, I can't. Spain, I have a hard time with as well sometimes, but for some reason, Germany, I'm just like, that's a weird combination. So Brian, what is the situation as of today? How are the Spurs fans feeling about these rumors? What's happening?
Yeah, let's clarify a few things. So the thing with the Joe Louis rumor about him going to Levy and saying that he needs to sell their biggest asset it's a load of shit. That isn't a true thing at all. Joe Louis has nothing to do with the footballing side. He sold his ownership to a trust to his kids essentially about a year and a half ago, and the trust has that part of ownership. He has nothing to do with decision making at Spurs, so he's not going to be somebody who comes to Levy and says sell our biggest asset because it doesn't affect him in any way. So that was a rumor that unfortunately, which has been a massive part of this the problem with this whole sort of debacle from Bayern, from the German media, from Bild in particular. The journalist who showed up with a Kane jersey with a 9 written on the back of it in the middle of an interview. Like, it's been one of the worst possible scenarios for Bayern to bring in a player because all they're doing is looking really, really bad. And arguably Kane is probably looking at them and saying, like, I don't necessarily know if I want to go to them based on the way they're dealing with the situation. Currently, right now, Kane has just come out and said, if there's nothing sorted before the end of before we play Brentford, the first game of the season, then I'm staying at Spurs for the rest of the season. And I may sign a new contract, depending on the type of football that we're playing, which is sort of open-ended. I get that. I'm not saying that means anything in particular. It does mean that he's drawing a line in the sand for anybody else who wants to come in and offer him something, which I'm glad he's done. That's a fortunate thing. Bottom line is that the likelihood of him going this window is really low. I know there's a lot of people who think that, he's going Bayern. Bayern are not going to pay the valuation that Levy has put out, which is £100 million, not €100 million. And Levy is Levy, and especially with the antics that the Bayern have both been a part of, as well as the media. All that does is raise the price. He did this with Bale. He did this with Berbatov. He did every time that any other club tries to fuck with him. His price, either he just stays in it harder or he just raises the price. And so I don't see that him going in this window to Bayern. Now, if there's another offer that comes in that's reasonable, Kane might consider it. But Kane's right now looking at this going, you know what? This isn't what I was told it's going to be. And they're not treating it the way they said they were going to treat it. They told Kane officially, or for at least what I've been told, that he told them his valuation based on what the club expects, and that they need to meet that to get him, and he will go if they meet it. And that just hasn't happened, and it hasn't even come close. The 20 million short, and £20 million is a lot of money. It's a bit of an insult to Kane, because you're looking at the best 9 in the planet, arguably one of the best players on the planet in that position, and you're not willing to pay, even if it is the last year of his contract, he's still worth it. If you're not willing to pay for me that much, why do I want to go play for you in a league where it's a guaranteed trophy and maybe Champions League competition? Can
I ask you a question, bro? I think you summarized that very, very well, and I agree with all of it. So the thing I struggle with is early on in these reports and from verified reporters, it said, and this is the thing I've struggled with, is that Kane is interested in going. And this is what I don't get.
I think I want to clarify that. Kane didn't say he's interested in going. Kane is willing to accept the right offer if the valuation is met, which is what I just spoke about. If he gets paid the right amount of money and because he wants to support Spurs in that scenario, he wants to make sure that Levy gets the money that he thinks he's worth and that they can reinvest that into the club, and he's willing to go to a club that's willing to pay that amount of money. It's actually very, arguably you could say Spursy, but it's really nice of him to do it for the club. He's doing it for the club. Knows his value, and he's saying to other clubs who come in, value me and what my club values me at, pay it, and I'm willing to accept an offer if it's good enough.
I don't know how much of that I buy, but let's go for the case of the argument. Sure. But where I'm kind of going here, I'm kind of with Paul a little bit. Like in, Bayern Munich for sure, guaranteed trophy and definite access to, potential Champions League deep run. I get all that. But we're talking about a guy who's 50 or 48 or 49 goals away from becoming, the best goal scorer in Premier League.
I believe
I have to imagine that that's important to him, and like him going to Germany. I'm with Paul. Like, and Azaz, I want to get your take on this. What the fuck, man? Like, maybe Real Madrid because, like, man, that team's good, but like, what the hell?
Just to quickly before anybody else comments, the goal for Levy, or at least the reports have been that he's looking for a buyback clause in the contract as well, and that's something that a team like Bayern isn't necessarily willing to do. And I don't know if you guys saw the Bild report about Harry Kane not being that good of a player for.
I did. Bullshit.
Yeah, it's nonsense. But again, is that a scenario where they're kind of like trying to downplay the fact that they're not going to pay for him, and so that they're going to, like, any of the supporters who've bought into the idea that Kane's coming, that he isn't anymore and he's not good enough. You know what I mean? Like, how they play
100 million for Harry Kane with 1 year left on a deal is a fucking bargain. I just don't get the Bayern Munich thing. Azaz, what do you think?
About the Bayern Munich thing, or just the Kane move
in general? Both.
Yeah. So it's tough because I actually thought there would have been some kind of Premier Leagues who would have stepped in at some point.
Maybe won't sell him to a Premier League team. That's not going to happen.
Fair point. So then the Munich thing's weird because it's a guaranteed trophy. You know what the haters in the building are going to say the same thing, where they're just going to say, well, it was a guaranteed trophy in Munich and it's a one-team league anyway. Yep. You couldn't cut it in the Premier League. Yep. It's a shame for the Premier League. Like, it's disappointing to see. Obviously, I'm not gonna miss playing him because he's always so good against us on that counter attack. But just as a spectacle in the league, like, he's England's talisman. He's he's a
captain.
I know Brian probably won't agree with this, but he's as close to a one-man big team. I'm not saying he's a one-man team, but he's as close to, because he's an assist maker and he's a scorer. He takes.
I've been saying that for the last couple of years on this podcast or on this channel. So, I agree.
Yeah. So I think the Bayern thing is disrespectful as well, because it's like, if you want the guy, just stump up the cash. And we're doing the same thing with Lavia right now, and we can talk about that separately. It's just more of this, like, what is this, like, peacocking that clubs are doing, where they'll, like, try and skimp and save on a player over here, and then they'll just go and lash out on a player over here. And when, like, it doesn't make any sense, because Harry Kane he's an international captain. He's proven at the top level. He should be the guy who you're like, okay, is that your price? Bang. And then they should be like haggling over some, like,
baffling to me.
Yeah. So I think Kane doesn't even need to put up with this shit, to be honest with you. Like, I almost feel like at this point, like he said, he's made his move. 9 days to the season. Just tie it up now and just be like,
he does what he wants. He does what he wants in this scenario. He has the power, and it's either he stays and has potential to sign a new contract because he likes what's happening, and he loves the club, or at the end of his contract, he goes to whoever the fuck he wants.
I'm gonna throw out something that's been bothering me as I've been watching a lot of the coverage, and I think in general, like, there's a lot of things being said because he is the big move. And I find whenever these content creators and these pundits start talking about big moves, they get so impatient for them to happen or not happen that they start doing this narrative like you're running out of time, or like they just they build in this subtext of things, which is just like kind of unnecessary. So I've heard a lot of people come forward and say, like, well, Harry must not have a winner's mentality because he's not forcing the move. If he wants to be on a title challenging team or like a big proper team, and they say it like in this way that's kind of like, oh, no disrespect to Tottenham, but like you can't say that and then disrespect Tottenham because you are.
Yeah.
And that's not a defense of Tottenham. I'm just saying when they say these
any
things,
team who's spoken about that way,
and they put it on Kane for being a non-winner, I'm always like, you've got a guy who's honoring his contract. How is that not a better thing than a guy who forces a move to go win somewhere else? That should be it should be admired, not as admonished, because you don't have news to report. And then if I'm Harry Kane, or if I'm advising Harry Kane, be open to a move.
His brother.
Don't sign a contract. See what happens in the summer. Pick where you want to go.
Yep.
And you'll have the world at your feet. You will control your own destiny. What is one more season to him? It's nothing. And yet all these people who are doing all this content are so fucking impatient. Not one of them are calling out the obvious thing that's happening here. It's like he could just be opening himself up to a massive free agent move
I think
summer.
Paul,
and if this was any other sport, the NFL, the NBA, or anything, this would be so predictable and easy to see and understand.
It's obvious for sure.
It's obvious.
Yeah. And I think, like you said, there's not a lot of people. I think there's this, and I don't want to say there's a bias against Spurs, but there is some sort of like desire to get Kane to a bigger club because they want to see him, fulfill his potential, right? Like, you get that from Man United press, you get that from different parts of the sort of.
He's likable. He's a likable player.
He's likable,
right?
but he's also like really fucking good and delivers every season. And it's annoying. It's annoying that he plays for Spurs and we've not won anything since he's been there. Like, it's annoying for people to watch that, especially us because he's on our team. But like if you're a fan of good football and a fan of good players and you want to see them succeed, like you want to see England's captain, who he does well whatever he does, and he's a really just like a really traditionally good guy. You root for him, and to see him not win the trophies that he deserves to win, which I think is a bit of an odd one to say. You feel bad for him a touch, but I think he's doing exactly that, Paul. I think he is literally, and maybe arguably could have done it a little bit better, but he is doing that. He's going, here's the opportunity that exists. I told Bayern Munich if they pay this value, that Levy will sell me. They have not met the valuation, which is £100 million. That's it. And he told them that when they had the initial meetings. This is probably what he's going to ask for. You're going to want to pay it if you want me. They have said, no, we're going to chuck out 70 million the first time. We're going to chuck out 80 the next. And it's not met the evaluation of what Levy's put out there as the valuation. And Kane is like, all right, fine. I'm fine with staying with the club for the rest of the season. I'll play my heart out. I'll score goals like I normally do because I love the club. And then when it's all done, I'll either make a decision to sign another one mid-season, or because I like what we're doing, or I'll go to United at the next season, or whoever.
I bet the big spanner of the works he's thrown out is that he wants to move by the start of the season. And I bet there's a bunch of fucking lawyers and people with money who are waiting out to the end of the window to do that last minute press.
Yeah, it's a bit of that, and it's a bit of I don't want to put the and I know this may be like seemingly wishful thinking from most perspectives because a lot of professionals don't do this, but I do think he is thinking of Tottenham and what it means for our season moving forward.
Without getting into his motivations, what I'm saying is when he's doing that, that is a deadline that they were probably not anticipating because like the strategy. I'm sure other clubs will go in for him. I'm sure their strategy is to delay for as long as possible to swoop in with a big offer late in the game.
Yeah,
he's moved that measuring line to like late in the game is not really going to be
7 days or 8 days from
in relation to the window. Not that late in the day. It's pretty early in the actual like closure of the transfer window. So he's kind of taken away a lot of theoretically the leverage anybody making an offer to leave you're going to have because
get it done or we're moving on because I don't want him to be in this situation. I don't think he wants it either. I think he wants to start the season well, for whatever club.
I think we all understand why he's doing it. I'm just saying the interesting fact is he's blown up a lot of the negotiating leverage.
For sure he is. Yeah.
Buying clubs would have had to wait.
Yeah. He's fucked them completely, which is
rapid fire before we go to the next topic around the table. Paul, what happens? Does he stay or does he go?
I have a gut feeling somebody's going to go in for a big offer, and it's going to be big enough that he'll have to go, and it won't be a him thing. It'll be like for the business of Tottenham, he will make it clear that he's not going to sign an extension, and then they're going to have to sell him. But I feel like it's going to be coming next week.
I think he'll go. I think he'll go to Bayern. To be honest, like I think they've built their whole transfer strategy around him, and they look like mugs. And Bayern Munich don't want to look like mugs. And I think Levy will have the buyback clause in there, so he can bring him back. I think that's the safest bet.
Bri, are you with me? I think he just stays, plays out the season.
I do. I think he stays. I mean, I think if you asked me this a week ago, I'd be with Azaz and Paul. But I think especially, like I would say, even in the last couple of days, there's been a lot of specific things that have happened that normally don't happen in this type of situation, especially like what Paul was just discussing about coming out and saying a first game of the season. That changes the ability for teams to make a move and for that move to get over the line in that short period of time. And that's only what the season starts in 12 days, 13 days or whatever it is, or 10 days. I think it's even less. So it's going to be a lot harder even for Bayern. Bayern have to meet that number, which is 20 million more. Can they afford it? Arguably they can afford it, but can they afford a financial fair play? Does it work with the rest of their transfer strategy? Is it something that they want to throw the money at? And Levy is not going to make it easy for that 10 days.
I think
it's
we all
know. What do they say?
The hardest 10 days of Bayern's life.
What do they say? Watch this space.
Yeah, I don't think he goes. I don't think he goes. I think it'll get messy, and I think it'll be. We're going to.
Wait, you're getting messy. Getting messy.
No, I just think that they're going to keep throwing numbers, and there's going to be keep bids, and Levy's just going to sit there and go, "I told you how much it is. You either give it or you don't." And I told you if there's a buyback clause, you give it or you don't. And if they don't give it, he stays.
Strikers are expensive. David Convery, tell me about this guy.
You know what? Yeah, I'm of mixed emotions because he's like a young, talented striker, but it's a lot of money for potential. Like there's also a risk that this guy comes to the Premier League, does not adapt, does not become the player, United and a lot of other people think. So I'm excited about the idea of him becoming that player, but I'm also equally nervous and skeptical of, and again, if it takes 2 seasons, I'm okay with that, but I don't know, man. I'm very conflicted. I'm like, oh, that's smart. Obviously, Ten Hag's got a great record with, signings. He's, calculated. So there is a part of me that's like, oh, man, this could be great. And there's another part of me, that like logical part of my brain, or that like, well, what if? Or there's another thing where it could be like a banter season where everyone's like, oh, 60, 70 million for this kid who's shit. So I'm kind of there. Right? Yeah, like I'm kind of there, and I guess I'm a little bit like this, like fingers crossed, like, he is what we think he could be or might be. So if I'm being very honest, that's like where I'm at. And I know it's, not the answer. Everyone's like, oh, I'll be excited. He's got such raw talent. And maybe he does. But the Premier League is fucking hard, guys. We all know it. We've seen people come in. I've seen it a ton of times. Memphis Depay, Shinji Kagawa, Mkhitaryan, a lot of guys where like they look phenomenal in Champions League and on YouTube. And I'm like, oh, here we go. What? You can't play like that in the Premier League? So I don't know. I'm actually more curious. What do you think, Paul? Like that's kind of where my head is at.
I mean, if the manager wants him and he's 20 and he's malleable and he's got the skill set and he's got the profile, which he does, because those are things you can kind of measure, like his speed, his side, his strength. Those are things you can kind of quantify, like not just eye test. Like you can kind of confirm that. I don't mind it. I think the price is representative of just how crazy the striker market is right now. Like there are not a lot of strikers of this age, this size, this speed, and this technical ability. I think we've probably been watching him a lot longer than any of us know. I think there's guys like Eriksson who are an international teammate who probably spoke about why he's a good signing or not signing. I almost feel like when you spend this much at a young player, there's at least a promise that you could sell them on and make some of the money back. Some of what we're going to be paying for him are like tied to performance goals. So like, for example, if he scores 20 goals in a season, you have to pay an extra 10, something like that. Then you don't mind spending that kind of money on a guy who scores 20. So for me, it's like, it's kind of just representative of what I think the market is and the reality of buying strikers is. And like, you hope that he works out. But for me, most importantly, I want to see a kid who tries, who's getting better every week. I'm not going to judge him on his goal production in the first season. I know he's a striker and you should, but like, he's a kid and it's a Premier League. I don't even know how often he's going to play. But I am excited to see what he can do. I just hope that the traditionally very patient Man United fan base do not get overswelled by the also very impatient nut job plastic fans that this fan base also has very large portion of. But I'm excited for him. Like, I generally, the kid was a Man United fan growing up. He's on the record as saying how much he loved Man United. And like, whenever that happens, I'm like, really just like, I just want to put my arm around him. Like, I will support you no matter what. Like, let's see how the next 5 years
And
goes.
I agree. I think for me mentally, like, and I don't want to go back. I'm just stating it very quickly. Like, in my head, like, there's one guy I wanted this. I wanted Harry Kane. Harry Kane's the guy I wanted. Harry Kane's the guy we needed, independent of everything we all just discussed. And he's not that. So, like, I'm hoping he can make that adaptation. But, I mean, we'll see. It's just, I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on him too. But it's like everything else. Let's see what happens. Right?
Some of the pressure, guys, has been really crazy because I don't know if you probably, of course, you've seen this, the comparison between him and Holland.
It's not
healthy.
No, I know.
It's not helpful.
It's not only not healthy, it's ridiculous. They're not even remotely close to the same stage at their development in the players. But because it's United, because it's City, and because it's number 9, and because it's number 9, that you get this like pressure, right?
The media,
big, tall Scandinavians.
I feel for him as a kid, as a player at a young age, to come in and because he's going to feel that pressure despite.
But that's part of it, Brian. That's part
it
is.
I know he has to
manage
it.
You
but
got to rise above that
for sure. But he's 19 and he's not Holland. I mean, he's just not.
He's going to need some protection.
You got it.
But there's a lot of people talking about how this kid's got that like cockiness about him. Like, there's a certain.
You need it.
I think every striker needs to have this like, I am the best Zlatan-esque thing inside them. Not to the same degree that Zlatan does, obviously, but so I've heard that he's very inflappable when it comes to that and his confidence, and I know time will tell, but it is
quick poster just to get you guys' thoughts, because you guys have done his your due diligence on him. Bryce says, is he a strong guy? I mean, how is his hold up play, strength on the ball, because he looks very slight of frame and the type that he'll get bullied by the defenders of the Prem. What do you guys thought on that? Is that a reasonable scenario? Is it because he's young and he needs to build? Like, what do you guys?
I think he's 6'3". He's fast as fuck. And I think he is strong.
6'3" is big, right? Like, he's a big
6'3" is a big body, and he's technically very like.
You'd never know though.
He's slight of frame, but he'll grow into that probably, right?
So, Brian, something that's very different with him and Holland, which is why to compare. His hold-up plays okay. It's actually not great. He's more of he'll come deeper and collect the ball, and very different from Holland. He'll turn and go at defenders, which I think is maybe a Ten Hag type thing for a young, fluid front three.
Well, he has the options. His thing is that he can hold it up or he can go at you.
And his hold-up is just okay. I wouldn't sit here and tell you it's fantastic. I think there's definitely room for improvement. But he's a guy that can come and collect the ball. And for somebody who's 6'3", if you watch him play, you'd think he's 5'10". He gets so low to the ground, and he's a power guy. So,
but to answer the question about how strong he is, that was posted by one of our fans watching show right now, I would say he is strong, but I would also say he's 20, so he's going to be stronger in the next 2 years.
He's going to grow into himself, right? Which is
hungry though, Brian.
Bobby K's response is sort of the reality.
Hungry.
Right?
We'll go into it.
How he falls, how he builds into it will determine what.
Yeah, I also think generally a lot of Premier League fans maybe overcook the importance of being strong. Like, there's a lot of players who are not strong who do a lot of things in the Premier League that we thought they were not going to be able to do. Like, Silva was too small.
I was just going to say, Man City won titles with no number 9. So the one thing that's glaring to me is he's younger but less accomplished. But like, there's an immediate Nunez comparison immediately, because there's that big price tag.
Nunez performed way better.
I think it's a fair comparison.
Good comparison, actually. I agree.
Young and untested, and not a lot of like numbers behind or time behind the numbers.
Yeah. So I'm expecting big things from Nunez this season, because not every player has that first season, and Nunez's first season, numbers wise, compares with like Drogba, it compares with Suarez. So there are players who kick on from there. So this guy should not be judged on one season at all.
No.
At all. And, to Forrest's point earlier, every fan's got those plastic nut jobs, but they're also the ones who are like throwing shade at other players from other teams. So, like, for example, the same Man U fan who was like throwing shade at Darwin, and it happens obviously in reverse, should probably just relax and like let this kid develop into what he may be in 2-3 seasons.
Let's all freak out and like as soon as he has like a bad month, he's like,
I think the key is what I try to do, especially like online and Twitter and YouTube, is try to block out as much of that and find those people that I think are sensitive. Sure. It's like here's my thing about Højlund. Like, as far as I can, when I look at United squad right now, I don't even see him making it into I think he's got to work in training to get into the starting lineup. Like, he's not an.
Rashford's your first number 9, right? Like he's
right now. He is. I don't have Højlund starting right now. Like, that's kind of perspective wise.
I actually think it'll be Rashford on the left and Martial starting until he gets broken.
Martial still, eh? Wow.
Yeah.
I don't.
He's still with you guys?
I also. Well. I would not be surprised if this window we did try to go for a more senior, developed, reliable striker and move Martial on. Like, I think we are still very light on strikers. And I don't think one 20-year-old prospect with a lot of potential is the end of our signings.
Leghorst 2.0.
Like, there are some free agents that I think would do a job as well.
I was just going to say, they're not going to be the showpiece though, because otherwise Mount would not have got number 7. I'm just going to use him as a dumb anchor name, but like, you ain't getting Mbappe because you've already given number 7 away. Do you get what I mean? So it's like, I think Man U will make more signings for sure. There's 29 days left in the window, but I think Mount is the big sign-in. This guy is the future sign-in. And then, sure. There's talk today that you might hijack Lavia as well. And then Amrabat's name keeps
Amrabat's the one we want. But you know what the problem is as in a lot of other clubs, we have to get rid of like 3 or 4 guys before. Like, everyone talks about United and Harry Kane.
We got to get out of our
squad. Everyone talks about United and Harry Kane. We couldn't, even if Kane wanted to come and Levy won, we couldn't sign him because of financial fair play right now. We can't.
So can I just say the why this is so funny is because on the flip side, our fan base is freaking out that we've let too many people go. And I'm like, it was about time. It was about time. Like, this new group might sink or swim.
I liked it.
Like, I love it.
I've seen a lot of that with Liverpool where everybody's like, all the old guys are gone. So who's the old guy in the room now? It's like,
you don't need that.
Refresh the squad. I desperate to do it, man.
If I'm a Liverpool fan, though, I was thinking about this today. I was talking to a mate who's a Liverpool fan. I want to start seeing some spending and seeing some more 100%. Bodies in, whether it's Lavier's. There's got to be more bodies coming in there, and there's got to be some cash spent. It's time for it if I'm a Liverpool fan.
Yeah. I don't disagree with that, but on a
sometimes I think you are, Dave.
On a pure
be logical.
He's so nice to his ass all the time.
Well, listen, Hendo out the door, Fabinho out the door. I know they're older, but they were still very important players to your squad last year. And you have done and Thiago's not a young man anymore. So if I'm a Liverpool,
but that was the glaring problem for Liverpool.
Yeah,
the midfield was aging, and they needed younger players to come in.
Here's the question I have: why are they throwing 100 million in Brighton for Caicedo? He fit in there like a glove. I don't get it.
They don't have
100 million is the answer.
I don't know.
100 million for Caicedo.
We should have it. We should have it.
You guys have it.
You don't. To be fair, as you have it, but you don't spend like that.
Yeah, we don't spend like that.
You don't spend. You're not like, oh, here's 100 million. Let's just throw it around. And you haven't since. Well, I don't know,
for a long time.
I'm going to slightly
the Coutinho money.
Slightly on, because I have noticed something weird about what's happening this summer for some reason. There's this crazy obsession with preseason games. Like they matter for more than they actually are.
Oh, I got opinions on this one.
And I don't know if it's because like there's just so much because there's so much content creators that everything is something that has to be analyzed and broken up to death or whatever. But like preseason games generally are an extension to what's already going on that day, that week. Like you're not seeing the first team. Usually you're seeing a bunch of guys getting given opportunities. You're getting encouraged to try things. Somebody blows the whistle at halftime. They come back and a totally different squad emerges, or somebody blows the whistle at 60-minute mark and 11 new players go on the field. It's not a real game. It's ridiculous how people are reacting right now to what is a testing ground for players and a conditioning run for most of the starters. And I just don't know if it's just me. Like,
you're getting sucked
like
in.
preseason.
This is the second or third time, and Brad, you might be as well.
I'm not sucked in.
We talked about it earlier. It's getting bigger and bigger in all of our fan bases. These people who have meltdowns about a 20-minute performance, but push it aside.
I'm not that person.
Perspective.
So just let me express to you what I think is important about the preseason and why it matters. It's not about necessarily results at all. Of course, the results are silly. Even individual performances are silly. It's about, especially if you've got a new manager, which we are currently in that scenario, and arguably United, and not brand new, but newish enough that you're bringing in new players and there's still a philosophy being developed. It's about making sure that the players come in and all the players that are there in the squad understand that philosophy and that you're building on that philosophy and you're making those things function. So when you watch the games and all these different players come in, and of course, different 11, different halves, like, it's across the board. That's how it is. Are they playing the style that the managers play? Are they setting the thing?
But Brian, I think that's a logical explanation.
And that's when preseason matters, but the scores don't matter.
Right. And that's what I'm basically saying. At the end of the day, win or loss, the score line of these preseason games is not why these games are being played.
So here's a good example. Spurs, I think it was 2008, they lost, or they won, like they smashed the preseason. They beat every team by like 4 or 5 goals. It was insane. They were like, oh my God, they're going to take the Premier League. We had to hire Harry Redknapp after 11 games to come in and save us because we were in relegation.
Dude, we smashed everybody under Louis. We won every preseason game,
doesn't matter.
and we lost our first fucking game of the season. You know what this preseason also is too? I think we need to mention this: is putting other players that you're trying to sell in the shop window, or a little bit of also sending a message to certain players in the squad that don't necessarily travel with the team, saying, you know what, man. You're not in the plans.
Surplus
so it's either you're not in the plans, or like for us, and we keep going back, like giving Donny Van de Beek like fucking an hour, be like, can someone please buy this guy? Or
we've done it. We've done it with Lloris, and Hugo Lloris still hasn't gone yet. We're like, come on,
I mean, as a United fan, like we got talked about a lot. It's a thing, but like when I hear people talk about like we've lost 3 preseason games, and they include the Wrexham loss, which was our under 21 team against Wrexham. I'm like, you're just saying shit. You're not qualifying any of it. You're just fucking making stuff up. And by the way, like a little rant about the Wrexham game. I know how expensive those fucking tickets were, and it is a fucking shambolic shame of bullshit proportions.
Oh yeah, money grab.
Those fucking and it wasn't even United because it was a promoter who did it. But to book Man United to play the day before they played Real Madrid, of course they're playing the kids. And then to hype it up like it was going to be this monster team against Wrexham, and then not mention that it's going to be the under 21 team, which basically it was, plus Johnny Evans. Like just I feel bad for anybody who was excited to be there, who spent the money, but I know how much expensive those tickets were, and they were like a few $100 minimum.
I think there's something to be said about the way it's being marketed, and of course that you look at the side of of your screen right now, 2003 tour 23 Snapdragon United Across America, like they're selling the Premier League to the States, into other places. We were in Thailand, we were in Australia. They're selling the Premier League to all these different international places. So their goal, despite the fact that if you know football at all, that you recognize that this is just scrimmaging. It's
a business.
It's fitness. They're trying to sell their brand. So the brand sells over and above what you know about what players are going to like their performance.
I will point out that the things that I have actually learned though, because there's also not all analysis is wasted. Like you're gonna see a new player, you're gonna be like, oh, that's what that guy's about. Like that's cool. Like Man United have an Onana now, and I can already tell like the way we're gonna play out of the back because of who he is, how he plays. It's obvious from a preseason game how different it will be. And that's awesome. I watched a few highlights from the Liverpool games. I'm still like, holy shit, the front 3 combinations are basically insane. Like that's something I kind of knew on paper, but to see it played out like legitimately when both left wingers are fire, both non-traditional strikers are fucking fire, and Mo Salah is like the cemented right winger. Like that's an interesting thing I can take away from a preseason game, whether they lose the game or they draw the game or if they blow a lead or nah. So there are still things in preseasons that we can learn about teams and other opponent teams, but the narrative of like this team did the best in the preseason because they had the best record.
They won the whatever stupid trophy made up.
Yeah.
To add to that, Paul, as well, is like, you know, it's funny because when you get a new manager, especially since Spurs have been playing defensive football for the last 4 seasons, and it's been, for most of us, what's up, JP? It's been a hard watch, right? Like we like attacking football, we want entertainment. This is not entertainment, blah 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 blah. So the whole thing about watching preseason games was like, what's it going to look like? What's it good? So that you just get so excited. So we're pumped to see Ange Ball, and Ange Ball is very, very much like Liverpool, like aggressive press, heavy attack. It's all attack. It's attack. And it was that, right? So the first game that we played, you know, we didn't win it. I think we had 73% possession. We had 800 passes to West Ham's like 200 passes. And it was just the statistics were absurd. And of course, it was 11, a different 11 in each half. And, you know, if you're aware of that, it's not a huge deal. But the football was incredible. And I was like, okay, that's what I'm getting out of preseason, not the result. We lost 3-2. It was yes, we're gonna see football.
I love preseason. I love it, but it's
like it's not. Again, Paul's point is don't take too much into the
It's
result.
all out the window when that first Premier League game starts. It's good for all of the things we mentioned, but at the end of the day, they're friendlies, right? It all starts when the Premier League kicks off.
Like, Dave, how many kids did we see last summer where like these kids are going to break through? They look fucking amazing. Not one of them are Man United players right now because they just couldn't.
Garnacho is brilliant, actually.
Yeah, but he got sat a lot of the summer because he was misbehaving. So
was he?
Get ready for him this season. It's gonna fucking
need some control.
So I'm going to transition slightly into a more optimistic conversation. Man City, treble winning, 3-time winning Man City have lost 2 of the guys in this picture. There's rumors that the other 2 are out the door at some point this transfer window.
It's crazy.
They are going to bring in their 18th new center back in 3 years, and they're going to spend 75 million to 80 million to get him. Not that that was a problem position, I don't think. I don't know why it's
Laporte is still there, and he didn't even barely played last season. 20 games.
Right. At some point, I'm going to wonder, when is too much change going to catch up to them? When are these players that are super impactful and meaningful to the course of their last few seasons, they can replace them on paper, they can bring in fresh bodies, they can promote somebody like Lewis from the under 21s to be a regular. But at some point, they are not going to be as good as they have been, because the incredible transfer record that they have right now, there's going to be a dip. There has to be a dip. I don't think if these 4 players go, we're going to not see a dip. I can see the absence of all these guys from a skill set, from a character, from the game it's somebody needs to do something to win it standpoint. Like from a dressing room standpoint, I can see the challenge they have with replacing all of that if these guys all go.
I'm going to counter relatively quickly. I thought that was the case last season, and it seemed like it for the first 3-4 months where they weren't necessarily performing at the level that they had previously to the 2 seasons prior, and then they clicked. And once they clicked, and everybody got what Pep wanted them to do, they started doing what City do. Now, I recognize that there's also an aging squad here over and above that are, and I think that is another thing to add to it. So De Bruyne is De Bruyne. He's still a brilliant player, but he's hitting.
How old is he, Bri?
He's hitting 30.
He's over 30. I think he's like
30, so 30, 31 around there. So all I'm saying is like you're looking at players that have been in that squad for a long time that are still very good, but their slight potential. The fact that we're so desperate for this is hilarious. Yeah, if they could just slow down a little bit, and these 4 guys matter enough that they will not be in. But I honestly think they still will be there. I think they'll be right there. I think maybe it'll be closer again, similar to having an Arsenal like they did last season. Maybe it'll be Liverpool this season. Maybe it'll be United. There'll be other teams in that conversation, but I still think City are going to be the hardest team to beat, and it won't be in the first 3 months, 4 months. That's when he figures out what he's going to do, and then from January onwards, he gets it done, and he's just done it every fucking season. So I don't see why this is any different. If there's specifics that somebody can point out that are different, then I can't wait.
As you go, because I will point out some specifics.
Yeah. So to me, there's a lot of like this graphic right here looks like Man United 1995, and then Alan Hansen says you can't win anything with kids, and Fergie shuts everyone up. Like Guardiola's like prime, like A+ manager with resources. Like Fergie was A+ manager with resources. If he's moving people on, they never go and do anything better. None of them. Same thing with Fergie. Like no one ever went and was better than they were at United. So he knows how to move people on. We also don't know. So Gundogan, his goals will be hard to replace. That one,
because they're so random and so
his overall
with him,
and he was a leader.
And he was a leader. So I don't think Kovacic replaces him. But the thing is, we also don't know what these other, like the flaws, his football mind, like we don't already know what other flaws he's kind of like trying to build around. I don't think they run away with it. They didn't run away with it last year. I don't think they run away with it like a couple of their other things. But when you have like Stones, Haaland, De Bruyne, like when you have these core of players, it reminds me of Man United mid-90s, where it's similar. Like we've got Keane, we've got Cantona, we've got Schmeichel. Cool, like.
But even to that point, I mean, if you look over the course of 7 seasons, Pep will be like revered as being great at resource management, making the competitive, right? But even Ferguson had dip seasons when that period was going on. Like when you win the treble, you get exhausted. And it's hard to build yourself up to like want to compete for another Premier League season. Especially when you've got guys who are maybe the character people that were driving everybody to perform at their top highest level. Like I mean, Jack Grealish looks like he's going to be fucking hungover the entire season because he's been partying so hard all summer.
But he got really fucking good though at the end of last year.
He's skillful as hell.
I was
but like
slagging him, and then he
fits that style.
Like so
he fits that style.
I'm not knocking him as a player. I'm knocking him as a character, as a guy who who's going to walk them out and say we still have to compete the hardest level. Is going to be that German on the screen, or is going to be fucking pretty boy Jackie? Like. I just see a lot of character being missed. and like, even if it's something like a dip where they're losing some points and they're not going to be as dominant, I'll take it. Like, let somebody like beat them. Like, I don't think they're all of a sudden going to go from like Muhammad Ali to fucking like Will Smith playing Muhammad Ali. Like, I don't think it's going to be that much of a drop. Like,
but hold on,
it's going to still be Man City led by Pep, but that little bit of a drop, that little bit of a weakness around the middle where they're not as strong in depth, because these guys were amazing players. To a man, these guys were all amazing players to have in that squad.
Bernardo and the Gundogan are the two ones that stand out for me. I think Kyle Walker was second choice at the end of the end. Mahrez was always kind of a second choice, depending on who they were playing against. So I don't think they matter as much, but I think Gundogan and Silva in particular matter a lot. And I think that's true. I think replacing those two is much harder than the other two.
Yeah, I only point out that they were in so many tournaments, even when we don't know Mahrez is playing because it's not a Premier League game.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough.
He's spreading the labor around.
A wonderful squad player, and I say squad player in a City team, not just like a squad player. Then
I mean, he went into that team
is amazing. So he was a player.
He went into that team a Premier League winner. Like he had this elite mentality.
Player of the year.
He had to do it.
Yeah, for sure. He's brilliant.
I think we're playing it down a little bit, and Paul's alluding to it here. What makes them so good and has for the last couple of years is, yes, their starting 11 is phenomenal, but they always had just such fantastic squad depth. The guys that we're looking on the screen and the people that have left and the people that's massive.
Maybe we should have a picture of who's coming in, Paul. Do you got a picture?
Well, we've got two. We've got Guardiola.
They've just got two.
Is it Vardiol? They signed, I believe.
Vardiol's
huge.
Yeah.
I mean,
but he's a center back, and Paul nailed it. They don't need there. Kovacic, I think, will be very good, but in the system that they play, it's usually Rodri. So I'm curious there. So Pep was asked the other day. They're like, a lot of people are leaving, just the same way we were talking about, and he was very vocal when he don't worry, we're going to do a lot of business and good business before it's over. Well, dude, when he doesn't often talk about transfers like that, but when Pep talks, he kind of listened, and it was a very stern response. He's like, "Don't worry, we've got people lined up, and don't be surprised if we do a lot of business." They've always got guys lined up. I'll say this: if they don't do more business and they don't replace these guys, they are a weaker squad than I think we're letting on from that depth perspective. Phil Foden didn't really play that much last season. It almost seems like he's not really fitting into the Pep. Mahrez was a starter the season before. He's moved on, but near the end of last season, Mahrez was deadly. So I think this hurts them, and I think they have to do business to stay on this kind of form.
I think they will, though, Tony. I think they'll do the business.
I agree.
I think they'll do business as well, but like you just have to look around the market and like who.
There's not a lot.
I think the thing is about the market,
players that can replace these guys.
When it comes to Man City, you can bring in a Kovacic, right, who played for other teams in the Premier League, who was a good player, who played a certain way, and then you can put that player with Pep, and it changes that player and how they understand his system is more important than the quality of the player. They have to understand what he wants them to do, and if they're willing to listen to what he wants them to do, that's when they get really good, is because they all understand the system really well. So you can take an average player, not an average, I said a slightly above average player who is available, and you can take him to like an Aston Villa, and he'll have a good season at under Emery there, and he'll play really well. And then you can take that same player and you can put him under Pep and in that squad, and he goes boom right there.
Like Calvin Phillips.
Calvin Phillips might do that this season, right?
He might, yeah.
So that's my point. It doesn't have to happen right away, and that could be one of the things we're missing out on. He's already done that with Phillips. Phillips could come in and be like, boom, now he's your Gundogan. I'm just saying it could be that, right? Like, so he's planning. I know it's like he's sort of a master at like understanding the nuances.
He'll get a lot out of
next seasons prior to what's happening. Like he gets all that. I don't think that's going to change.
And he's not the first. Like John O'Shea had the most appearances when United won the Champions League and League in 2008, 2007, 2008. John O'Shea had the most appearances. Mm-hmm. And like it's the same thing. He's gonna this isn't me saying that City aren't gonna win the treble by doing all this nonsense. Like I think that this is a bit too much to like not get found out by like the Madrids and the whoever and the Munichs with Kane. We come full circle. But like for the Premier League, they'll be there or thereabouts. Not saying they'll win it, it'll be closer than normal, but like they won't fall off a lot. It's can whoever is
last season though is as like they didn't fall off last season. They just
who did they lose last year though?
They drove. Well, they brought in Holland. They started playing a totally different system.
Similar. Jesus left, Zinchenko left, Sterling left.
Yeah, exactly.
Never played.
And they also
These
played.
Guys played.
No, they played. They rotated all. He always rotates. They all play.
I don't know.
And he always shifts the system. He shifted the system. I remember in December last season, guys, where a few of us, and myself included, and I completely admit that I was one of the people saying it, like City aren't playing the quality of football that we saw them play the season prior. I said that, and then they heard me say it or somebody else say it.
We say it every December. We all say it.
We all did, and then they went on the thing that they do, which is okay. We know what we've got now. We know what we've got to do, and this is Arsenal. We're gonna go finish and win this league, not just the league, but the Champions League and the. I just don't think that mentality goes away because you lose a few players. I think the mentality is the coach and the system.
I have to say something just to what Connie just said. So Riyad Mahrez last year played 30 games, scored 5 goals. The season earlier, Raheem Sterling played 30 games, scored 13 goals, and Gabriel Jesus played 28 games and 8 goals. So
they lost more the season prior than this one.
Yeah, and they won the treble.
And won the treble.
Yeah, exactly. It's Pep.
They also added.
It's
the
system
added,
and it's Pep.
They added
That's what it comes down to.
And like I don't like this like notion that these are siloed events. Like they lost a bunch of players last year, and they've lost even more this year just because they did well last year. The cumulative of what they've lost, over like last 2 seasons has an impact.
They've replaced some of them with Holland.
They replaced some of them. Yeah. No, I'm not saying they didn't replace. Like obviously at some point you can even say they got stronger with the replacements they had last year.
Exactly. And Alvarez.
I go to
and Alvarez.
I go to like the list of players have never felt this important. And it may not be the goal contributions. It may not be the tally. It just feels like there's just a lot of guys here that are the guys that I'm used to being the ones who step up and lead. Silva didn't start a lot of games in the Premier League, but he started the fucking Champions League final. Like there's so many guys who are like the go-to reliable, like solid pros that Pep is used to like bringing out into the field, that if they all go, even Kyle Walker is like, yeah, he was not getting used as much, but like what a weapon to have with his.
He's an automatic.
And reliable as hell when you need him in certain scenarios. But I think Walker, as good as he is he's a right back in a system that if you can bring in another right back, he can teach them how to do the system. And if he's athletic enough, he can do it. I think Gundogan is the biggest miss here, and Bernardo Silva, like I would probably say it equally, because of what they both did in very. I would
moments. Say that. Yeah, Silva hasn't gone anywhere yet, but between those two,
massive loss, right?
Is Bernardo trying to get the move to Barcelona still? Is that what's happening, or is that like
he's the hard one to tell because he's constantly rumored to be going, but who knows really? Like he could be fine.
He's going anywhere.
I mean, if he stays and they lose the other three, I think it's
Walker's a tough loss. Walker would be a huge loss.
I'm gonna wrap the show up with a question that kind of came up organically in our comment thread. Boys, who's your favorite Ninja Turtle?
Raphael.
I got a Raphael right there. Ooh, Donatello. That says a lot about your temperament. Son.
Leonardo, I think probably.
Ooh.
Donatello.
Yeah.
Are you Forrest, Mikey?
Nah, bro. I'm April O'Neil.
Oh, okay.
That totally suits you.
Well done.
But you guys do what you want to do.
I'm going with Splinter over here.
Are you talking like Megan Fox April O'Neil or OG cartoon April O'Neil?
Both just having a wank.
OG. Come on. With the yellow jumpsuit. Come on.
Both just having a wank. That's all he's doing about it.
All right, Jets, that's the show.
TMNT porn is what's going on for.
You got it. Long road to get there, but it paid off.
Are we doing season predictions coming up next? I love that.
Next show, season predictions. Tune in because it's a fun one.
Yeah, I'm going to spoil alert. Manchester City finished 5th.
I know you keep saying that. Bryce said that earlier as a joke in a.
Paul's trying to will it into existence.
I think we all want to will that into existence. It'd be nice to believe it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it's manifesting destiny. That's true.
They're going to win the title again, and we hate it.
That's true as well. Okay, gentlemen, I will catch some of you next week, some of you this weekend, some of you maybe in hell.
Definitely, I'll be there for sure.
Dear listeners, dear audience, dear fans, thank you very much for watching us. This has been a North End production. Please like and subscribe.
Smash that.
And bye, everybody.
Bye.
This is the North End. This is the North End.